3 days before my marking ceremony, someone set fire to the bridal shop while I was inside trying on my ceremonial dress. Alpha Marcus threw the arsonist into the pack prison, sentencing them to the harshest punishment our laws allowed. I lay in the hospital bed, my body covered in third-degree burns, refusing to wake fully as the reality of my disfigurement sank in. In my semi-conscious state, I heard Marcus speaking with the pack's healing witch. Alpha, we can still heal her completely with the ancient magic. If we wait any longer, Sarah will bear these scars for life. You just want Miss Rachel to be your Luna at the marking ceremony. This is cruel beyond measure. Let her keep the scars. I'll provide for her for the rest of her life, but if she's healed, she'll definitely cause trouble at the marking ceremony. I promised Rachel that her pup would be welcomed into the pack with full honors. Only when Sarah is completely disfigured will she be grateful enough to raise Rachel's child as her own. The scars are necessary, at least this way, she won't dare mistreat the pup. In the corner of the room, where no one was watching, a tear slid down my burned cheek. So this was the truth. The marking ceremony I'd dreamed of was nothing but a lie. The mate bond one longed for would be my death sentence. If that's how it had to be, I would give him what he wanted. 1. Don't argue with me. Follow my plan exactly. The silver injection must be precise. Make sure it kills her wolf completely. She can't suspect anything. My mate Alpha Marcus's voice was cold and calculating. Once she wakes up, I'll take her to meet Rachel's pup. Without her wolf, she'll have no choice but to cherish the child as her own. No Omega has ever challenged an Alpha's decision. The healing witch wiped sweat from her brow, her conscience clearly troubled. Alpha, please reconsider. Sarah will be covered in burned scars. And now you want to kill her wolf too? This is beyond cruel. It's practically a death sentence. How will she face the pack elders as an Omega? And what about Rachel's pup? The child looks exactly like you. What if Sarah notices the resemblance? Everything will fall apart. Marcus reached out, methodically applying healing salve to my cracked lips with surprising gentleness. His voice carried a note of resigned sadness that made my heart ache despite everything. She won't notice anything. Once she becomes an Omega, she will have to stay in the pack. She cannot afford any risk of leaving the pack. I promised Rachel I would give her a magnificent marking ceremony, that I would watch our pup grow up together. Even though she's married to another Alpha now, I won't let her worry about our child's future. The healing witch sighed heavily, looking at my pale face on the hospital bed. Sarah is a good wolf. You grew up together in this pack. Why are you choosing that? Never mind. If you're determined to do this, then proceed. Prepare the silver. Make sure it's done cleanly. No traces. I want it done before she wakes up. I don't want her to feel more pain than necessary. The witch hurried from the room, her footsteps echoing with reluctance. Marcus pulled out his phone and sent a voice message to his beta. Has the arsonist kept quiet? Stick to our agreement. 200,000 in compensation. Help their family relocate outside pack territory. Sarah can't find out. I couldn't stop the tears from falling, soaking silently into my pillow. Marcus continued to tend to my burns with warm cloths, his touch gentle even as he plotted to destroy my life. Despite the warmth of his care, I felt cold to my very core. So this was the truth. The marking ceremony I'd spent 5 years dreaming about was nothing but a facade for Rachel's benefit. The fire wasn't an accident at all. He was simply removing an obstacle for Rachel, the mother of his secret child. Everything I believed about our happiness together had been nothing but an illusion. Lies and betrayal. That was the real foundation of our relationship. I struggled to open my eyes against the heaviness of sedation. But before I could fully wake, I felt another needle pierce my skin, this time carrying something far worse than just anesthesia. Before they wheeled me into the treatment room, Alpha Marcus pressed a gentle kiss to my forehead. Be brave, little one. It will be over soon. Sarah, I'll be waiting for you. The silver burned like liquid fire through my veins. My wolf howled in agony, her cries echoing through my mind as she fought against the poison. As my wolf's presence began to fade, my heart grew as cold as the silver destroying her. When I next opened my eyes, I was back in the hospital room. The burns still covered my body, but something far worse had changed. The familiar warmth of my wolf, the presence I'd known since childhood, was gone. Only emptiness remained where she should be. Marcus sat vigilant by my bedside. When he saw me wake, his face showed perfect concern, as if he hadn't just ordered my wolf's death. He took my hand in his, pressing it against his cheek with such tenderness it made the betrayal cut even deeper. Sarah, you're awake? Are you in pain anywhere? Tell me if it hurts. I'll have them adjust your medication. His expression was as loving as ever, but now I could see the emptiness behind his eyes. The calculating coolness that had always been there, hidden beneath the warmth. It was terrifying to realize how far someone would go for another person's love. How thoroughly they would destroy a life that stood in their way. I shook my head slightly, reaching up to touch the stubble on his jaw. Playing my part in this cruel charade. You haven't slept all night, have you? I'm fine. Get some rest. Marcus accepted my words without suspicion, finally letting his guard down. Soon he was asleep beside my bed. 2. I forced myself to get up, my newly scarred body protesting every movement. Marcus's study was just next door. The safe in his desk had a familiar combination, the date we first met. I'll never forget this day, he'd told me then, eyes shining with what I'd thought was love. The day my wolf first recognized her mate. But nothing inside belonged to our story. Instead, I found dozens of bottles of prenatal vitamins for werewolf mates, still sealed, pressed against Rachel's pregnancy test results. The most recent date was 3 years ago. The very day Marcus had proposed to me. A phone lay among the evidence. Its cloud storage synced to a folder labeled, Our Pup's Journey. Weekly ultrasound images filled the screen. Each one had Marcus's handwritten notes. Oliver's first heartbeat. Look at those tiny paws. Our little princess is growing so strong. There were pages of carefully crafted recipes, special dishes to support a pregnant werewolf through each trimester. Marcus had noted Rachel's cravings and reactions to each meal. The nursery plans were elaborate. Oliver's room should face the morning sun, he'd written. My little wolf will love watching the sunrise. The messages showed bookings at the pack's premier birthing din. The date matched exactly when Marcus claimed he'd be away on pack business. I remembered how he'd insisted he wasn't ready for pups, how he'd said we should wait until after the marking ceremony. I want to focus on us first, he'd said. Pups can come later. Now I understood. He didn't want pups with me because he already had the family he wanted. The safe's lower compartment held the design for a marking ceremony ring, sized for Rachel's finger. Then I found the notifications Marcus had sent to neighboring pack alphas. From the very beginning, he'd introduced Rachel as his true mate to everyone. The sacred scrolls bore both their signatures, Marcus and Rachel, Alpha and Luna. His message to the ceremonial master was clear. Ensure everything is perfect for my true mate's ascension to Luna. The other matter will be handled discreetly. The other matter was me. I laughed until the sound turned to sobs. With shaking hands, I messaged my friend in the Northern Territories. I need a healer, I wrote. Someone who can reverse silver poisoning. And I need to disappear. I began the formal process to remove myself from the pack registry. Let them think I was accepting my fate as an Omega. My friend didn't question much, assuming I'd finally seen Marcus's true nature. Her messages radiated relief that I was escaping. I put down the phone and let exhaustion pull me into darkness. But this time, when I closed my eyes, I didn't dream of Marcus. I dreamed of freedom. I woke to the sound of Marcus's sobs. He clutched a report from the pack healer, his broad shoulders shaking with what appeared to be grief. Sarah, the healer discovered during the examination. Your wolf was critically damaged in the fire. She can't heal herself. Without your wolf strength, you'll never be able to bear alpha pups. Our bloodline. He reached for my hand, his touch gentle but calculated. But I won't abandon you. No matter what happens, you'll still be my mate. Once you're released from the hospital, we can adopt a pup. A strong alpha pup to carry on the pack line. Having a child to care for will help you heal. I was the one who had lost my wolf. Yet he acted more devastated than I felt. His performance was flawless. I didn't bother exposing the lie. After a long silence, I stared at the report in his hands and nodded slowly. Marcus's eyes welled with tears as he pulled me into his embrace. I'll take care of you always. Don't be afraid. No matter what anyone says about an alpha with an omega mate, I'll stand by you. After the marking ceremony, I'll transfer ownership of the Northern Pack territories to you. It's the least I can do to secure your future. Our chests pressed together, but our heartbeats told different stories. His heart raced with hidden excitement while mine beat steady with cold understanding. Finally, Marcus spoke hesitantly. About the marking ceremony, it's all prepared, but with your condition. Find someone to take my place, I interrupted. We can't let the pack lose face. I knew exactly what he wanted to say. Better to suggest it myself than be cornered into it. At least this way, I could maintain some dignity. Marcus seemed amazed by my sudden compliance. But with his goal achieved, he didn't question my change of heart. His phone rang, shattering the moment. He glanced at the screen, then looked at me in confusion. Sarah, why are you canceling your pack registration? 3. I met his gaze steadily. An Omega has no place in the main pack registry. I'm just adapting to my new reality. Marcus's expression turned distressed. You'll always be my Luna, Sarah. You have a place here in our pack. I met his gaze steadily. As your future Luna, I should follow pack law. I won't embarrass you as an alpha. He pulled me closer, voice thick with emotion. You always think of me first. That's why you're perfect for our pack. I suppressed a bitter smile at his performance. Marcus, I want to leave the hospital. His body tensed immediately. Absolutely not. You haven't healed enough. I won't risk it. I tugged at his arm playfully, forcing a bright smile. But didn't you mention adopting a pup? I made my voice small, worried. Alpha pups are rarely abandoned. Will we be able to find one? It was the first time in 5 years I'd acted vulnerable with him. Marcus's expression softened. Don't worry about that. A friend of mine, another alpha, died in a territory war 2 years ago. His pup is in our pack's orphan den. We can visit him. He hesitated, then added, I've been checking on the pup occasionally, making sure he's cared for. On the drive there, Marcus reached into the back seat and brought out a stuffed wolf toy. He claimed he'd bought it specially for me, to cheer me up. But the tag clearly stated suitable for pups ages 3 to 12. I set the toy aside and closed my eyes, pretending to feel unwell. This 5-year deception needed to end. At the orphan den, I sat in the wheelchair, my burned body still too weak to walk. A small boy, about 3 years old, immediately ran to Marcus. Daddy, he cried, wrapping his arms around Marcus's legs. Marcus's face flickered with panic before he quickly explained. Don't misunderstand. Isponsolistin. I've visited several times, and this pup, he's just attached to me, calls every male visitor daddy. I nodded, reaching out to touch the boy's cheek. He looks so much like you. If you hadn't explained, I'd think he was yours. The boy had Marcus's exact eye color. His small features echoed Rachel's. What's his name? Oliver. He's the one I thought we could adopt. I stroked the boy's hair, noting how his scent carried traces of both Marcus and Rachel. Even with my dulled senses, there was no mistaking it. Before Marcus could explain further, Oliver started crying, asking where his mother was. Marcus's face went pale instantly. I could smell his fear scent spike. His eyes darted to me anxiously. It's fine, I said smoothly, forcing my lips into a gentle smile. Go comfort him. He has strong alpha blood. He'll make a perfect heir for our pack. His aura already shows such potential. My words visibly relieved him. Marcus hurried into the healer's office with Oliver in his arms, the boy's small hands clutching his father's shirt with familiar ease. I made an excuse about getting my burn medicine, lingering near the door. Even with my weakened senses, I could smell Rachel's signature lavender perfume from inside. The pack members' voices drifted clearly through the gap. Why is Alpha Marcus pretending his own pup is an orphan? Those clothes are pure silk from the mountain pack's weavers, worth more than my yearly salary. The moonstone buttons alone cost thousands. Who'd believe he's an orphan? You don't understand. Alpha's got it all planned out. This is the only way to make the pup his legitimate heir. Be smart and keep your mouth shut around Sarah. She can't know. Of course Rachel is his true choice. They used to run patrol together in college, always volunteering for the night shifts. I knew they'd end up together. And now alone in that office. Their knowing laughter made my chest tighten, until I could barely breathe. I moved closer to the door, and familiar voices became clear. How is he treating you? Marcus asked softly. Fine enough. He's away on pack business most of the time, which makes things easier. This way he won't discover about Oliver. He even talks about having pups with me. Rachel's voice held barely contained amusement. Marcus's laugh was bitter. Once Oliver is officially in the pack house, you won't have to worry. If you need anything, just call me. I'll always provide for you both. Oh, I got you something. A healing crystal from the ancient pack. Cost me 10 million, but it's worth it. It can heal any scar completely. Rachel gasped as she opened the box. Another gift? You've given me so many wedding presents this year. My closet is overflowing. Sarah would be upset if she knew. She protested, but her hands eagerly cradled the crystal. Oliver cuddled against Rachel's side, nuzzling into her neck in the instinctive way of wolf pups with their true mothers. Mommy, can we go home now? What if Sarah figures it out? Rachel asked. These burns. If she learns you gave me a healing crystal. She won't need it, Marcus said. An Omega's scars don't matter to the pack. Oliver's laughter echoed from the room, pure and happy, secure in his parents' love. I didn't stand firmly enough, and the door swung open under my weight. Marcus's eyes flashed with panic. Sarah, what are you doing here? Don't overthink it, he rushed to explain. Rachel is the guard of our pack's orphan den, protecting all the pups. She just happened to be here today to discuss Oliver's adoption. Rachel stood, holding Oliver close as she gave me a casual wave. Sarah, it's been a while. From my position by the door, I forced a smile, swallowing my pain as my burns throbbed. It's fine. I was just looking around. Since you're busy, I won't disturb you. I'll wait in the car. I turned to leave, my legs still unsteady from the silver coursing through my veins. Marcus thought I was upset and followed me, explanations tumbling from his lips. Please don't misunderstand. She's here all the time as the den's guardian. All the pups call her mother, it's just a title. Once the adoption is complete, I'll explain everything to Oliver. Watching him fret over my supposed jealousy, I felt an hysterical urge to laugh. All this elaborate planning, just to bring his secret pup into the pack legally. He hadn't hesitated to orchestrate the fire that scarred me, hadn't flinched when ordering the silver injection that killed my wolf. And now he had everything he wanted, yet still played the concerned mate. Don't worry, I said softly. I'm not unreasonable. Go handle the paperwork. I'll wait quietly in the car like a good Omega should. Relief flooded his face as he watched me walk away. Every pack member I passed looked at me with barely concealed contempt. Their whispers followed me. Poor thing doesn't even realize. At least the burns will give her an excuse to hide away. The Alpha's being kind, taking in an Omega. I ignored them all, pulling out my phone to begin the process of removing myself from the pack registry. My fingers shook as I typed, but not from weakness. Through the window, I could see Marcus and Rachel bent over paperwork, Oliver playing happily at their feet. The perfect family picture, built on my destruction. To celebrate Oliver's adoption, Marcus booked an entire cruise ship for a charity dinner. I hid on the top deck, away from the festivities below. Even there, I could hear the whispers and laughter of the pack elders, their mockery carrying on the sea breeze. From my position near the railing, I watched the perfect family scene unfold below. Marcus stood proudly, presenting Oliver with the pack's Alpha token, a silver medallion passed down through generations. Rachel touched his arm playfully. He's so young. Are you sure he can handle such responsibility when he grows up? Marcus just smiled, ruffling Oliver's hair. My son will be the most powerful Alpha this pack has ever seen. The bitterness in my chest finally overflowed. I pulled out all the letters Marcus had written me over 5 years, watching them burn to ash in my hands. Suddenly, Rachel appeared behind me, her form shifting fluidly into her wolf shape. Her claws pressed into my burned scars as she pinned me down. Does it hurt being an Omega? She taunted. You're just like these ashes now. Worthless garbage he can't even look at without disgust. Her claws dug deeper, reopening my barely healed wounds. How does it feel, watching him give my pup the Alpha token? Watching him build the future you thought would be yours? Before I could respond, she suddenly leaped back. With a dramatic cry, she stumbled and fell over the railing. I hadn't even moved, but her scream echoed across the water. She pushed me. Marcus reacted instantly, diving into the dark waves after her. Moments later, he emerged with Rachel clutched safely to his chest. His eyes found mine, burning with fury as he carried her back onto the deck. What the hell were you thinking, Sarah? Have you completely lost your mind? Rachel came to kindly invite you to join us and you attack her? Is this how an Omega repays our generosity? 5. Marcus's parents, the pack's former Alpha and Luna, glared at me with open hostility. Oliver was sobbing uncontrollably beside them. Bad witch hurt mommy. I don't want her in our pack. I want mommy. I want my real mommy. Rachel leaned weakly against Marcus, her wet clothes clinging dramatically. I'm sorry. I just told Sarah I'd agreed to stand in for her at the marking ceremony. I never thought she'd react like this. Don't blame her, Marcus. She's been through so much. I lay awkwardly on the deck, a bitter smile twisting my scarred lips. Marcus, don't I deserve an explanation? The fire, my wolf's damage, the pup. Was any of it real? Marcus's brow furrowed, but I caught the flash of panic in his eyes. What are you talking about? The fire was a tragic accident. Rachel's just trying to help by taking your place in the ceremony. She's being kind and you attack her? What's happened to you, Sarah? Apologize to Rachel. Now, before I could speak, the pack elders stepped forward. Worthless Omega, you dare cause trouble? You think you're still worthy of being an Alpha's mate? Who else would take a wolf-less mongrel except our son's charity? Enough. Let this be her punishment for her arrogance. Get Rachel to the healer, make sure she's not injured. My claws, the only part of my wolf I could still access, cut into my palms as blood dripped onto the deck. Marcus gathered Rachel in one arm, took Oliver's hand with the other. They walked away as a family, leaving me broken on the ground. 5 years of love turned to ash in my mouth. I pulled myself back into the room, my burn screaming in protest. I booked a spot in a convoy leaving the pack for the day of the marking ceremony. Checked into a hotel far from pack territory. That night, Marcus sent a message. Rachel's still going to stand in for you at the ceremony. Your attack on her looks bad, so the apology was just for show. Don't overthink it. The elders were just upset. I'll make them apologize after everything's done. Rest well. I have a surprise coming for the ceremony. You'll love it, I promise. But I understood now. The performance wasn't for Rachel's benefit. It had all been for me. He'd played the devoted mate for 5 years. Now it was time for the final act. I stayed away from the pack house for the next 2 days. Marcus didn't return either. He was too busy preparing for the marking ceremony, insisting on overseeing every detail personally. The morning of the ceremony, I called him one last time. He was preoccupied with his beta, barely acknowledging my call. Alpha, are you certain about transferring half the northern territories to Rachel? She's not pack-born. It's risky to give an outsider so much power. Do as I say. That half is compensation I promised her. The other half is for Oliver's inheritance. And handle the ceremony guests yourself. Watch for any trouble from Sarah's old pack. Only after the beta left did Marcus remember the open phone line. Sarah? Sorry for the wait. The ceremony's about to begin. I'll come back to you as soon as it's done. Don't be upset. I stared at the convoy reservation in my hand, keeping my voice carefully neutral. Don't worry about it. I won't keep you. Marcus, congratulations on your mating. He paused for a moment, then laughed. You mean our mating? Be a good girl and wait for me at home. As the call ended, I walked onto the plane. The silver in my veins burned less now. My wolf stirred more strongly each day. We both knew this wasn't the end, just a new beginning. When the confirmation of my pack registry deletion came through, I erased every trace of him from my life. Phone numbers, photos, messages, all gone, like smoke in the wind. The cabin of the commercial turboprop smelled of stale coffee, cheap vinyl, and the sharp, chemical tang of the antiseptic the hospital had used to dress my burns. I sat in the very last row, next to the small, scratched window. Every rise and fall of the aircraft sent a shudder through my spine, the pressure changes in the unpressurized rear making the skin on my neck and shoulders feel tight, like dried leather left in the sun. The human passengers around me didn't look twice. They saw a woman wrapped in a heavy linen scarf despite the summer heat, her face half hidden by dark glasses. To them, I was just a private traveler hiding a deformity. To the wolf world, I was a ghost. My fingers, stiff from the scarring that webbed across my knuckles, tapped the screen of my burner phone. The notification from the pack registry was still there, a simple system-generated text. Request for registry deletion, approved. Member ID number 982 Sarah, no surname, is officially removed from the Blackwood territory rolls. Status: unaffiliated. In our world, an unaffiliated wolf was a target. Without the scent of a pack territory on your skin, you were fair game for any border patrol or rogue hunter. But I didn't have a scent anymore. The silver they had pumped into my median cubital vein had done its job. The metallic, dead smell of the poison had drowned out the clean pine and snow aroma of my birth wolf. I smelled like a hospital waste bin. I smelled like nothing. Are you all right, miss? The flight attendant asked, her voice low as she stopped by my row. You're sweating. Just the air, I croaked. My vocal cords had been scorched by the smoke in the bridal shop. The doctor said they would never fully recover their former resonance. I'm fine. She nodded, her eyes lingering on the red, puckered skin visible at my collar. Before she moved on, I leaned my head against the cold plastic of the window. Behind my closed eyelids, I could still see the silver needle. I could still see Marcus's face, not the angry alpha who had roared at me on the deck of the cruise ship, but the gentle, weeping boy who had sat by my bedside, holding my hand while his, which poisoned my blood. I'll take care of you always, he had whispered, no matter what anyone says. The hypocrisy of it was a physical weight in my chest. He had wanted the perfect, tragic ending. The noble alpha who kept his scarred, useless mate out of pity, while his true love and their secret son lived in luxury under the guise of charity. He had wanted to be a saint in the eyes of the pack elders. While enjoying the fruits of his treason, the plane began its descent into the northern territories. Below, the endless, dark green of the boreal forest stretched out like an unrolled carpet, broken only by the silver ribbons of half-frozen rivers. This was the territory of the winterborn. They didn't have an alpha in the traditional sense. They were ruled by a council of 5 retired warriors who had survived the Great Northern Wars. They didn't care about the gossip of the southern packs. They only cared about strength, survival, and silence. When the plane wheels touched the tarmac at the small, gravel-strewn airfield, I didn't wait for the others. I took my single duffel bag and walked out into the cold, clean air of the north. A man was waiting near the terminal gate, leaning against a rusty pickup truck. He wore a heavy sheepskin coat, his dark hair cut short and practical. He didn't have the broad, arrogant posture of Marcus's sentries. He stood low and solid, like an old pine tree. Sarah? He asked as I approached. Balin. He didn't look at my scarf or my glasses. He reached out, took my duffel bag with a scarred hand, and tossed it into the back of the truck. Your friend in the north told me to expect you. She said you have silver in the blood. Yes. It's a hard thing to cure, he said, opening the passenger door for me. Sometimes the cure kills the wolf before the silver does. My wolf is already dead, I said, my voice flat. The silver just left the corpse behind. Valen paused, his dark eyes searching my face beneath the rim of his hat. A wolf doesn't die that easily, little one. She just goes deep where the poison can't find her. He climbed into the driver's seat and started the engine. The truck rattled as we drove away from the airfield, heading deep into the shadow of the northern mountains. The cabin was 3 miles past the nearest forestry road, situated on the edge of a volcanic hot spring. The air here was different, thick with the smell of sulfur, wet pine needle, and the heavy metallic steam rising from the dark water. Valen's clinic was a low-ceilinged room made of rough-hewn spruce logs. In the center sat a deep wooden tub filled with black, viscous mud. Volcanic sand and blue root extract, Valen said, stirring the mixture with a long wooden paddle. The heat opens the pores. The blue root binds to the silver in your lymphatic system and draws it out through the skin. But it will feel like your veins are being scraped with broken glass. He pointed to a bench in the corner. Strip down to your undergarments. If you can't handle the heat, tell me. But if you get out before the hour is up, silver will settle in your joints and you'll be a cripple by winter. I didn't hesitate. I unbuttoned my shirt, ignoring the faint intake of breath from Valen as he saw the extent of the burns. My back was a map of red and white ridges. The skin on my left shoulder was pulled tight, restricting my arms' movement. The fire was set with pine tar, Valen muttered, his clinical voice returning as he inspected the scars. A slow hot burn. Whoever did this wanted you to suffer before you died. Marcus said it was a tragic accident, I said, stepping into the warm, heavy mud of the tub. An alpha who lies to his own mate about fire is no alpha at all, Valen said. He took a bucket of the black sand and began to pour it over my shoulders, his hands firm and indifferent to my wincing. In the north, we kill leaders who treat their own people like dry wood. The heat hit me first, a thick, suffocating weight that made my lungs burn. But then came the chemical reaction. The blue root met the silver. A white-hot needle of pain shot from my collarbone down to my fingertips. My vision went black, the room spinning as my heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. My wolf, the tiny dormant ember that Marcus thought he had snuffed out, let out a silent, agonized shriek in the back of my mind. Hold steady. Valen's voice came from far away, his hand pressing down on my shoulder to keep me from thrashing. Let it work, Sarah. Don't fight the pain. Flow with it. I bit my lip until the taste of copper filled my mouth. I didn't scream. If I screamed, Marcus would win. If I gave up, Rachel's pup would grow up in the Blackwood house, playing with the toys my father had carved for my future children, while I lay in some forgotten cottage, grateful for the scraps of their mercy. She won't need the healing crystal, Marcus had told Rachel. And Omega's scars don't matter to the pack. The memory was colder than the silver. It was a block of ice in my belly, keeping me anchored while the volcanic mud boiled my skin. For 3 hours, I stayed in the tub. Each time the pain peaked, Valen would pour cold well water over my head, his voice steady as he recited the old Northern Pack lineage. He didn't offer comfort, he offered structure. When he finally helped me out, my skin was gray-black, covered in a slimy, metallic film that smelled of old pennies and rotten vinegar. Look, Valen said, pointing to the bucket of water he used to rinse me. At the bottom of the wooden bucket, a fine glittering gray sediment had settled. It looked like lead dust. The first layer is out, Valen said, wrapping me in a clean, rough cotton sheet. But we have to do this every 3 days for a month. Your wolf will survive, but she will be changed. Silver poison wolves who survive the purge don't have the same scent anymore. They are cold. The other packs won't be able to read you. Good, I said, my teeth chattering as the cold northern wind whistled through the log gaps. I don't want them to smell me coming. Back in the Blackwood territory, the sun was setting on the day of the marking ceremony. The pack house was silent after the noise of the feast. In the master bedroom, Marcus sat on the edge of the bed, his formal alpha coat unbuttoned, his hair disheveled. Beside him lay Rachel, her hair spread across the silk pillows, her chest rising and falling in the deep sleep of a newly marked Luna. But Marcus was not sleeping. He reached up, touching his collarbone where his pack mark resided. There was a dull, persistent ache in his chest, not the warm, pulsing connection of a true mate bond, but a dry, hollow rattle. The bond with Sarah had not been broken by death. It had been severed by her deletion from the registry, leaving a scarred, bleeding stump in his soul. Marcus, Rachel murmured, her eyes half opening. What's wrong? Why aren't you resting? Nothing, he said, his voice tight. Just, the ceremony was long. We did it, she said, a small, triumphant smile touching her lips. Oliver is officially the heir. The elders didn't say a word when I stood in for her. They were just glad the unfortunate matter was settled. Yes, Marcus said. But his hand went to his phone. He unlocked it, opening the GPS tracker he had installed on Sarah's medical wristband. The screen showed a single, blinking red dot in the middle of the Blackwood residential sector, the small stone cottage near the old orchard where he had told her to wait. I'm going to check on the security detail, Marcus said, standing up and pulling on his boots. Now, Rachel complained, reaching for his arm. She's an Omega, Marcus. Where could she go? She's probably asleep. I just want to make sure the elders didn't try to cause trouble, he said, his tone leaving no room for argument. He drove the 5 miles to the orchard cottage in silence, the truck headlights cutting through the thick pine forest. The cottage was dark. No smoke came from the chimney, and the front door was slightly ajar, swinging in the night wind. Marcus's heart gave a sudden, violent thud. Sarah, he called out, stepping into the small kitchen. The room smelled of nothing. No pine, no snow, no Sarah. On the kitchen table sat her hospital-issued medical wristband, cut cleanly with a silver-plated knife. The screen was still blinking, transmitting its fake location to his phone. Beside it lay her old silver pendant, the one his father had given her when she was 10 years old, marking her as the future Luna of the pack. He ran to the bedroom. The wardrobe was empty. Her boots were gone. His phone rang, the screen displaying the beta's name. Alpha. The beta's voice was filled with a rare, shaking panic. We have a problem. The central office just updated the database for the quarterly tax assessment. Sarah's name, it's gone. What do you mean gone? Marcus roared, his grip on the phone tightening until the glass creaked. She filed a formal registry deletion 3 days ago. Because she was classified as an Omega after her wolf's damage. The system processed it automatically, without requiring your signature. She's no longer a member of the Blackwood Pack, Marcus. She's a free rogue. Marcus dropped the phone. It clattered against the pine floorboards, the beta's voice still tinny and small from the speaker. Alpha? Should we send the tracker units? Alpha. He looked at the empty kitchen, the cold hearth, the silver pendant on the table. She hadn't run because she was afraid. She had waited until he was bound to Rachel, until his hands were tied by the laws of the marking ceremony, and then she had cleanly, surgically removed herself from his life. The realization hit him like a physical blow to the stomach. She had known. 3 weeks later, the snow came. In the northern forest, the spruce branches were heavy with white powder, their tips drooping toward the dark earth. I stood in the clearing behind Valen's cabin, dressed in a simple wool tunic, my bare feet sinking into the fresh drifts. The silver was gone from my veins, but the cost had been high. My wolf emerged. She was not the gray, thick-furred forest wolf of my youth. The silver had bonded with her coat during the purges. She was now a strange, metallic white, her fur shining like frost on steel. Her eyes were no longer the warm gold of the southern wolves. They were a cold, pale gray, almost translucent. We are cold, she whispered in my mind, her voice no longer a warm howl but a sharp, dry rustle like dry leaves over ice. They cannot burn us again, Sarah. We are made of the metal that kills them. How do you feel? Valen asked, walking out from the cabin with 2 cups of hot pine needle tea. Fast, I said. My hand went to my shoulder. The puckered red burn scars had faded to a pale, silvery white pattern that looked like frost crawling up my neck. They didn't hurt anymore. The skin was tough, almost like leather armor. The Blackwood Pack is searching for you, Valen said, handing me a cup. Marcus has sent 3 scout teams into the neutral territories. He's telling everyone. You were abducted by rogues. He has to, I said, taking a sip of the bitter tea. If the Leakin Council finds out a fated mate deleted her registration and fled his territory after a suspicious fire, they'll launch an inquiry. An alpha who cannot keep his mates' loyalty is seen as a liability to the High King. And the territory transfer? I've already sent the documents to the Northern Elders, I said. The land Marcus signed over to Rachel as compensation wasn't his to give. It's treaty land from the 1904 Accords. If he tries to develop it for Rachel's family, the Winterborn will see it as an act of war. I looked down at my hands. The silver scars on my knuckles looked like rings. He wanted an Omega who would stay in the dark and raise his bastard, I said. I'm going to give him a war instead. You'll need allies, Valen said. The Winterborn won't fight for a rogue even. A silverblood. They won't have to, I said. They'll fight for their land. I'm just the one who's going to light the fuse. Back in the Blackwood estate, the atmosphere was growing increasingly hostile. Rachel sat at the large mahogany desk in the Luna's study, surrounded by ledgers. She didn't know how to read. Beside her stood the pack's head treasurer, an old wolf named Howard who had served Marcus's father for 40 years. What do you mean the accounts are frozen? Rachel demanded, her voice rising in pitch. I'm the Luna. I signed the transfer for the Northern Territory estates last week. The Winterborn Pack has placed a legal injunction on those lands, Luna. Howard said, his voice dry and entirely lacking in respect. They claim the land is protected under the 1904 treaty. Since Sarah, the former registered co-owner, is no longer a member of this pack, her signature is required to release the deed. Without her, the land is dead capital. Then find her. Rachel slammed her hand on the desk, her moonstone rings clinking. Marcus has 3 scout teams out there. Why haven't they brought her back? Because she doesn't want to be found, a cold voice said from the doorway. Marcus stood there, his face pale and drawn, his eyes bloodshot. He had spent the last 2 weeks running patrols himself, but the snow had covered every track. Marcus, Rachel said, her expression changing to one of sweet, victimized concern. This is ridiculous. The elders are starting to grumble. They say the pack's winter reserves are down because we can't access the northern supply lines. Can't you just use your alpha authority to override the treaty? The High King enforces the treaties, Rachel, Marcus said, his voice flat. If I touch those lands without Sarah's signature, the king's sentries will be here. By the next full moon, we'll be stripped of our title. But she's just an Omega, Rachel cried, standing up. She's scarred, she's wolfless. How is she doing this? She isn't wolfless, Marcus said softly, his hand going to his collarbone, where the dead bond still creaked. If her wolf were dead, the bond would be gone completely. It isn't. It's cold. It feels like iron. He looked at Rachel, and for the first time, he noticed the way her lavender perfume smelled, too sweet, too artificial, like flowers left to rot in a closed room. He remembered the smell of Sarah's skin before the fire, the clean, sharp scent of cedar wood and winter wind. I should have healed her, Marcus muttered, his voice barely audible. What did you say? Rachel's eyes narrowed. Nothing, Marcus said, turning back to the hallway. I'm going to the border. The beta found a scent near the northern crossing. The border between the Blackwood territory and the northern forest was marked by a frozen river, its ice thick and gray under the winter sky. Marcus stood on the southern bank, surrounded by 6 of his strongest warriors. Across the river, the spruce trees stood silent and dark, their branches heavy with snow. The scent ends here, Alpha, the beta said, pointing to a set of small, human footprints that stopped at the ice's edge. But it's strange. There's no wolf scent. Just cold. Sarah, Marcus called out, his voice carrying over the frozen river. I know. You're there. Come home. We can fix this. I'll give you the northern estates, the whole territory. You don't have to live like a rogue. The silence of the forest was his only answer. Then the snow began to fall, fine and sharp as salt. Out of the shadow of the trees walked a figure. She wore a simple white wool coat, the hood pulled back to reveal her face. Marcus's breath caught in his throat. She was not the scarred, weeping girl he had left in the hospital bed. Her face was clean, her skin pale and smooth, save for the delicate silvery white patterns that traced her neck like frost. Her eyes, once a warm, submissive gold, were a cold, pale gray that seemed to reflect the winter sky. Sarah, Marcus whispered, taking a step onto the ice. Don't cross the river, Marcus, she said, her voice low and raspy yet carrying a strange, metallic resonance that made the ice beneath his feet creak. The north belongs to the winterborn now. Sarah, please, he pleaded, reaching out a hand. The fire. It was an accident. I was trying to protect you from the elders. If you had been whole, they would have demanded we mate immediately, and Rachel's pup. I just wanted to make sure everyone was cared for. You wanted to be a saint, Marcus, I said, my voice entirely devoid of anger. But a saint doesn't poison his mate with silver. A saint doesn't watch his own pup wear silk while the woman who built his pack house sleeps on a cot. I can change it, he cried. I'll send Rachel away. I'll put Oliver in the orphan den. Just come back. The pack is falling apart without you. The pack is falling apart because you built it on lies, I said. And a house built on lies cannot stand the winter. Behind me, the trees began to rustle. One by one, the warriors of the winterborn emerged from the shadows. They did not have the bright, clean armor of Marcus's sentries. They wore dark leather and iron, their eyes cold and hungry. In the center stood Valen, his large gray wolf form standing solid against the snow. You have 24 hours to withdraw your scout teams from our borders, Alpha. Marcus. Valen's voice came through the mind link, cold and heavy as a falling log. If we find another Blackwood scent north of the river, we will take it as an act of war. And the High King will not help an Alpha who cannot keep his own mate from running. Marcus looked at the northern warriors, then at me. Sarah. He whispered, his eyes filling with real, desperate tears. We were fated. The moon chooses the fate, Marcus, I said, turning back toward the dark forest. But we choose the survival. My wolf let out a single, sharp howl, not a cry of grief, but a song of steel and ice, as we vanished into the white silence of the north.